Alright, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, remember, talk loud.
Okay. Theater kid voice.
I mean, maybe not a theater kid voice, just talk loud. Fucking drama nerd. I don't really have a song yet, so,
We got the smoke, you got it too, gotta go. We got the white, out of sight, getting gold. Hot in the day, hot in the night, hot as the cold. Come and touch red, light on your bed, here we go. Oh, listen to whistle roll, baby, the sun is getting low. Hi-oh, hi-oh. In the day we work hard for gold. Hi-oh, hi-oh, and high hopes. When the sun is dead, in the night we get low.
hello, everyone! We're back
Greetings.
again. And this is Colby.
And Sophia.
We're Vertigo Voices, voicing Vertigo once again.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we're back. We, I don't know, we've had a couple shows this year, and I was kind of happy to just leave it at that. But then I was looking at our numbers, and they're significantly higher than they were in the past. Again, nothing amazing, but like, when 2 episodes over the course of 2 months have double what, like in the first week, double what I've got on like entire stretches of episodes in the past, like, I don't know, okay, I guess I should do some more. So yeah, we're back.
Consistency helps.
Yeah. Wait, what? No, lack of consistency. We used to do this fucking weekly.
We did. Once upon a time. But that was during the pandemic when, nothing was happening.
That's not the point. You just said consistency help. That was consistency, and that did not help.
For me, this is consistency. The fact that we make recording dates and keep them. But that's a whole nother topic of conversation. Anyway.
So that song I just played was called Hi-Yo by the Ruin Brothers. R-U-E-N, Ruin, not like to ruin a song by saying Hi-Yo in it. No, I fucking love that song. That's from their album 10 Paces. I think it came out last year. It's really good. You should fucking buy it and listen to it. My kid and I call that our Pride album because I got that CD a week before celebrating Pride this last summer, and so we just blared it in our car that whole weekend while we went to like the Pride Parade and the whole Pride like the celebration downtown. We went to an art show up on the South Hill, and then we went to the Lilac City Comic Con that same weekend. We had a very fucking busy weekend.
You did.
But then again, that was last summer. Has absolutely nothing to do with anything we're talking about today, but I didn't do any prep, so that was just on my recently listened, and that's what we're listening to now. It was either that or Theme to the X-Men from X-Men 97, because that show's back, and it's really fucking good.
I've been meaning to watch it.
There's only 2 episodes out so far, but yeah, it's fucking great. Some familiarity with the original series is helpful, but it does a pretty good job of picking or getting people up to speed. So anyway, yeah, today, I guess the main focus of today's episode is going to be, Vertigo Encyclopedia, fuck me. The main focus of today's episode, take 2, is going to be, the Vertigo Hall of Fame. We're making our own Vertigo Hall of Fame.
Yes, indeed.
And, like, important people that we think in Vertigo. But before that, I've got a couple little bits of news. Number 1 is just my wrap-up from the Emerald City Comic Con, which was a couple weeks ago in Seattle. My kid and I went to that. It was really fucking cool. Significantly bigger than the last time I went. So the last time I went there, you go to the convention center downtown, and there's this main hall where everything's at. So we go into the main hall, and it's like pretty empty. There's only a few vendors, and then there's like all the celebrity booths to the left. And my cousin's like, what the fuck is this? I went with my kid and then my cousin and his kids. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I thought this is where everything was at. Like, that's where it was last time, in 2015. I don't know. So we grabbed this map, and the map shows something completely different. Like, this shows the vendor exhibition hall. And like, what the fuck? What? And I look at like, wait, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 0? Like, what the fuck? And so the guy's like, oh yeah, you're not in the right building. You need to go 1 block out, and then 2 blocks down, and then take a left, and then you'll see the other exhibition hall. I'm like, so there's fucking 2 buildings now? Like, Jesus Christ, all right. So we go outside, go there, and it's fucking huge, just enormous. Almost as big as like San Diego Comic-Con when I was there last. Really big, like I said, 4 levels of stuff. First place I went to was Artist Alley. So I met 3 Vertigo legends at this weekend. The first one I met, I guess this could also count as Colby Has Issues, because I got volume 3 of iZombie, and I bought it from Chris Robertson, the creator of iZombie. Talked to him for a little bit. He signed this. He said, Colby, brains are good eating. Talked to him a little bit about the comic and the show and everything, and I told him about the podcast, and he was like, ooh, I'll have to listen. But I talked to him a little bit. He mentioned Shelly Bond. He was very complimentary to Shelly Bond. Or she was the person that approved iZombie. And he also talked about Karen Berger. He said that she was somebody that got him on his first like comic book panel at San Diego Comic-Con, I think. He and her had such a great like back and forth that she kept inviting him to panels even when he wasn't working on a book that they were talking about. So he said that he owes a good chunk of his career to Karen Berger and Shelly Bond. And that was nice. And then after that, I went up to the booth of Shelly Bond and Philip Bond. And I'll try, because I mean, this was a fucking formative moment in my life. I can't believe I got to actually chit-chat with them for a while. And I'll try to walk through exactly what happened, because it was really fucking cool. But I walked up with my kid, and I was like, hi, Shelly Bond, nice to meet you. My name's Colby Park. And she goes, oh, yeah, Colby Park, I know you. And I was like, yeah, I mean, kinda. We're friends on Facebook. She's like, yeah, and I've listened to your podcast. And I was like, oh, my God. And she goes, well, and even if I hadn't, I'd still recognize your name because you've got a really unique name, and you were a backer on a couple of my books. And I was like, yeah, I was. Thanks for remembering. And then we chit-chatted about how, like, at one of her most recent books, I'd helped her track down a credit for a photo of Neil Gaiman. And she was like, Mark Hempel. Like, yeah, it was Mark Hempel. You're right. Correct.
That's the one.
So, yeah, we bullshitted for a little bit. Her husband, who, he's done lots of work for Vertigo as well. I talked to him about a Hellblazer comic that he did called Hellblazer Bad Blood. It was it was a mini-series about John in, like, the 2020s, weirdly enough. And it came out in the 90s. And I think it came out, like, 2001, actually, now that I think about it. But I was like, oh, man, I knew that you were going to be here, and I was going to grab my copies of Hellblazer Bad Blood to have you sign them. I was like, but they're in a storage unit, and I just didn't want to dig through it. So, like, I'm sorry, but I would have liked to have gotten your signature. And he was like, oh, man, I haven't thought about that comic in years. Like, it's all about, like, the death of the queen, and it's set in the 2020s. Like, damn, what? We need to get that reprinted.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, sure, dude, do it.
Please.
Yeah. So, yeah, I talked to them for a while. The weirdest coincidence, too, I mentioned my cousin and his son were there. And as I'm talking to Shelly Bond, like, they walk up. And Shelly was like, oh, are you guys, like, related or anything? I'm like, oh, yeah, this is my cousin. This is my, first cousin. What is your cousin's kid called?
Second cousin?
No, that's what I thought, but it's not.
No?
Yeah, I don't. I was like, whatever, it's my fucking cousin's kid, so I don't know. And she was like, oh, that's weird, because I just talked to them. And my cousin was telling me that his son, who is, I think, 7 or 8, was, like, super nervous going through Artist Alley. Like, there was booths that he would want to approach, but he wouldn't. Oh. And he'd get skittish when the creators would see them. And he was like, yeah, he was, like, super skittish and everything. And then he saw Shelly Bond and just went right to her. And she was like, oh, come on over here. Look at this comic. Do you like kids' comics? Well, look at this one. This one's all about my time in summer camp. And she just gave him a free comic. And then she was like, there's also a writer right over there that I really like his stuff, and he has a really cool story about his youth. You should go check it out. So when they walked up, they had just bought that comic that she suggested to them. And it was just super weird that the one person that I really wanted to talk to was the one person that, like, they connected with.
Absolutely. Gravitated towards.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a really, really nice conversation. I brought my Spider Jerusalem glasses.
Oh, yes.
And she was like, "Oh my God, are those the official ones?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, I haven't seen those in ages." And she goes, "How much did you pay for those?" Just out of curiosity. And I was like, honestly, I don't remember, but I know it was a lot. And she took a picture of me in those glasses to send to the editor of Transmetropolitan. And then like later that day on Facebook, her fucking Facebook account was just full of photos of me and with her and her husband and all that. And that really fucking blew me away. So yeah, that was the highlight of my goddamn life. Running into Shelly Bond at the Comic-Con. Oh, and as I was leaving her booth, it was like, I've taken up so much of your time. Have a good day, have a good con. Hope to see you again sometime. And then as I was leaving, she was like, "Hey, if you ever want me as a guest on your show, just let me know." I was like, "Oh God, you're killing me."
We're gonna have to make that happen somehow.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea how. Like, yeah, fucking. Here's my keys. Just come over and whatever.
Exactly.
Just kick down my door.
The coffee's on.
Yeah, I don't even care what I'm doing. I'll start recording. I don't give a shit.
Exactly. That's fantastically surreal, man.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely a high point con experience for me. I've been to a lot of cons and had a lot of fun and met a lot of great people, but that might be the top of the list because she is an absolute hero of mine, and to actually, share space with her and see just how cool and welcoming and open she and her husband are just in real life was fucking awesome. They both just ooze cool and love for comics. And it's just she even I was talking about meeting Chris Robertson, and she's like, "Hey, do you want me to sign that too? I was an editor on it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I handed it to her, and she wrote, "Colby, Viva Comics." Even though I've already got like a dozen signatures of hers, but yeah, why not?
If you want to, don't say no.
Yeah, exactly. She also, she gave me, I think there's something in here. She gave me some Filth and Grammar bookmarks and
oh, cool.
fake tattoos, which I already had those from the Kickstarter, but you can never have too many rub-on tattoos.
Exactly.
She also, yeah, I forgot. I promised her I was going to bring this up. So, after talking to Chris Robertson about iZombie and then talking to her about iZombie, she brought up like how much she really liked that show, which I've always been really down on. And she was like, "Oh yeah, that was actually the first like Vertigo TV adaptation that proved that this could work like long term, because that show ran for like 6 seasons."
Yeah.
And she was like, "I was really happy with it and was happy with the changes and what they stuck with and blah blah blah." And she goes, "Funny thing about iZombie," she goes, "I named that book." And I was like, "Really?" And she goes, "Yeah, when Chris Robertson first pitched it to me, it was a legacy character, like what Neil Gaiman did with Sandman. Neil Gaiman dusted off an old 1930s character and created this entirely new franchise around it." Mm-hmm. And she goes, "Originally, it was called Gravedigger, based on a DC war character from the 70s called Gravedigger." Oh. And she said that she read through the pitch and went through it with him, and she was like, "I really like it, but like this shouldn't be a legacy character. Like this is too original." She was like, "The whole brain eating thing and the undersouls and oversoul, like the story is too unique and the voice is too yours." She's like, "It needs to be creator owned. So you need to distance it from any other DC projects." And she said that she was trying to like think up names for it. And she's like, everything these days, this was 2003 or whatever, 2000, I can't remember the exact year, early 2000s. She goes, everything is so like iPod, iPad, iPhone, like lean into that. She's like, "It's a zombie story. How about iZombie?" And, the rest is history. And she goes, "No one ever remembers that I came up with that name. And no one ever talks about it." I was like, "Well, guess what, Shell?" Talking about it now.
For you. I didn't know that she named it. That's cool.
So anyway, yeah, it was a fucking amazing con experience. And, had a really great trip to Seattle.
Well worth it.
Yeah, my kid loved it. My kid took a million fucking pictures of costumes and met a bunch of characters from shows that he watches. That he's really in this fucking show called Has Been Hotel.
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
It's on Amazon Prime. It's my kid's 12. This is profoundly inappropriate for a 12-year-old. It's set in hell. It's all about porn stars and musical demons and Lucifer. They throw the word cunt around like it's going out of style. But my kid loves it, and what the fuck ever. So he actually got me to watch the first episode with him, and I'm sitting there watching it, and it gets to about the 10-minute mark, and there's like a big musical number, and I paused it, and I was like, dude, is this a fucking musical? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, I'm going to level with you. I'll finish this episode with you, but I'm probably not going to watch any more of it.
Only because you're my child and I love you.
Exactly. And whatever, I've watched a little bit here and there. It's fine, but he fucking loves it. So we're going to stay with my cousin, right? And we're driving over there, and my cousin's kids are like 5 and 8, something like that. They're younger than mine. And I was like, dude, we got to have a talk because I realize that you're hyper fixated on Has Been Hotel right now and fucking demons and angels and porn stars and profoundly inappropriate songs. I was like, but I need you to back that off when we are hanging out with these kids, okay? Yeah, I know. I'm not going to do it. All right, whatever. Just no demon talk. So then we get there. 5 minutes in, my little cousin, who again is, I think, about 5, walks up and is like, look at this game I made. It's called Defeat the Devil. You go through hell and you fight demons until you get to the devil. Who's your favorite demon? My favorite demon is the devil. Look at this Lego minifig I made. I took a Batman head and turned it into the devil. Are you going to dress up at the Comic-Con? I think I'm going to dress up as the devil. He's my favorite demon. Who's your favorite demon? Mine is the devil. And so then I was like, all right, fuck it, man. Never mind. Talk about demons. I don't give a shit.
Was he all red-faced, trying to keep it in?
Well, my cousin's wife was like, I don't know where the hell this came from. Like, he's just been obsessed with demons for the last few months. He won't fucking stop talking about demons. He goes to school and tells all of his friends about his favorite demons. His best friend is super religious. So she's like, I know any day now I'm going to get like an angry mom coming up to my front doorstep thinking that I'm a devil worshiper and blah, blah, blah.
Well, like mine's then, so in the end it turned out great for them.
So who's your favorite demon? Mine is the devil.
Good choice. I mean, classic.
Anyway, so yeah, that was fun. Because we can't fucking escape goddamn Zack Snyder and DC bullshit. Have you seen his recent interview on Joe fucking Rogan?
I heard about it, haven't listened to it.
So, I don't have a whole lot of input other than what I've already talked about. It's just him talking about, so essentially Zack Snyder's ethos is that people say Batman shouldn't kill, so if you tell me not to do something, I want to do it. The end. So he's, a fucking 5-year-old who needs to have his hand slapped every once in a while. The podcast, The Weekly Planet, which is a podcast that I fucking love, listen to a lot, they have a really, really good breakdown of that and why it's immature and dumb. And if you go on YouTube, let me see, I think they made a video of just that. Yeah, they have a little video just called Should Batman Kill by Mr. Sunday Movies. Watch it. It's great. It's 14 minutes long. That says anything that I could say, but more concise and more funny and better.
So Snyder's gonna Snyder.
Yeah, exactly. Snyder's gonna Snyder. My other last little bit that I'd like to talk about is, I don't know, a retraction, maybe? More context. So, after our last episode about bodies, which, neither you nor I were super positive about that story.
True.
Which is funny. I could also, Shelly Bond going to meet her, and she was like, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I saw that your new episode was about bodies. That's another thing. Our fucking last episode about bodies, when I posted it, fucking Shelly Bond tagged all of the artists of that book.
That's right.
In a post about it. Mm-hmm. So here I am, you're like, it's okay, I don't really fucking like it. And everyone who worked on that book got tagged and got to see me piss on their hard work, and it's better than anything I could write, but but here I am saying, it's okay, it's a fucking Vertislow. The end.
Take it with a grain of salt, guys.
So anyway, after that episode, I was talking to one of our listeners named Oliver.
Hi, Oliver.
About it. He let me see. I'm just going to read what he said because this is great. He said he just finished Bodies, so the memory was fresh in his head when he listened to the episode. He said, first, I was pleased that you talked about... Oh, sorry, that's Justice League. Or Kill the Justice League talk. He is on the same page with me about live service games and the bullshit of that video game. Alex Garland, okay. Black Mirror, okay. So, bodies, he says. I was thinking, in the comic, there is John, quote, Frank, Bull, and he's appearing when the typical British old white man is somehow, quote, threatened. First, there was homosexuality with Hillinghead, then the Jew, Nazi World War II, Whiteman, to racism, Hassan, and finally, yeah, it is technology. Oh, sorry, and then technology in the future. The whole, what's it called? The fucking, the wave, pulse wave.
Pulse, yeah.
Yeah, especially as weapons. In the comic, it's loosely described pulse wave. In the show, it's a nuclear weapon. So John Bull could be a reminder that even if all the John Bulls in UK feel threatened, they will, quote, survive like he did. Though he will always fight those changes in society, he will also be reborn and fight again against the next, quote, threat. A personification of fear and anger, which is hard to kill. The Netflix show did something totally different. I really like the cast, great fan of Stephen Graham. His character was interesting. And then he says, I'm my own grandpa. When I was reading the comic, I was like, there's Harker. And then, but where's the throat? Yeah, the time traveling thing. I did like the outcome, and the show was much more optimistic with the new villain. The actors did a great job. Anyway, so I told him, like, holy shit, that take on John Bull makes way more sense than mine. I think you're onto something there. I'll have to bring it up when we record next. So what he's essentially saying is that John Bull is a personification of white, male, British, patriarchy. Mm-hmm. And that this body keeps appearing at times in history where the idea of like white male authoritarianism is being pushed back against or threatened, and that each time he dies, he comes back, and like I thought that was really interesting, and that's a take that completely went over my head.
Oh, me too. When you shared that with me, it's like someone took my brain and just shook it out like, a dusty carpet. I was like, oh, wow.
And that went from a book that I was like, I don't know if I'll ever read that again. It's like, fuck, now I really want to read it again.
Exactly, yes. It's like, well, bite my tongue.
Exactly. So, yeah, the biggest retraction I can for that book, of me being like lukewarm on it, when that's a profoundly interesting take, and completely recontextualizes how I saw it. I still don't think the show is as interesting, though, because none of that's in the show. Right. Because when you just turn it into a scientist in the future who gets thrown back in time a couple times, that's all of that nuance is lost. But that certainly makes the comic about 1,000,000 times more interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. Read that one with fresh eyes.
Yeah. So anyway, bodies, Vertigo. The end. So let's wrap this episode up quick.
Go to sleep on that one. Okay.
So yeah, that's all I had. I don't think I have any. Well, I have some Colby's Guide issues. Have you ever heard of or read the comic book Dylan Dog?
I've heard of it, haven't read it.
Yeah. So it's an Italian comic by Sergio Bonelli. And just this week, there was a new Batman Dylan Dog crossover. Didn't realize that they were connected at all, so I picked it up. I've read a fair amount of the Dylan Dog stuff from like the 80s. Dark Horse republished them probably 15 years ago. There was a movie about Dylan Dog with Brandon Routh a few years ago, probably 10, 12 years ago. It was fine. More interesting to me is that there's an unofficial, quote, Dylan Dog movie from the 90s called Cemetery Man. It stars Rupert Everett. I think in other countries it's called Della Morte dell'Amore. But in America it's called Cemetery Man. Really good. I think it's based on another Bonelli book. Oh, no. It's based on a novel called Della Morte dell'Amore by Tiziano Sclavi. Wait a second. Tiziano Sclavi was the creator of Dylan Dog, not Sergio Bonelli. So, Cemetery Man is loosely based on Dylan Dog and this novel by Tiziano Sclavi. Anyway, all that to say, there's a new Dylan Dog comic out by DC. That's weird to me, but I look forward to reading it.
That sounds like one that has totally passed me by, so...
Dylan Dog is like an occult detective guy. His sidekick is Groucho Marx. Like, it's literally, like, it's just Groucho. He calls him Groucho. He looks like Groucho.
Okay.
When they had to reproduce that in America, they didn't have the rights to Groucho, so they just, like, erased his mustache and called him Felix.
As one does.
Yeah. It looks like, though, let me see. On the alternate cover of this, it looked like Groucho was actually in it. Oh, yeah, there's Groucho. This is Groucho as fuck. Look at that.
Oh, my God, yes. The man.
Yeah. So, one of my favorite quotes about Dylan Dog, this is also a really fucking long comic for $4.99.
It is, yeah.
One of my favorite quotes about Dylan Dog comes from Umberto Eco. You know who Umberto Eco is?
Remind me.
Italian writer. He wrote Name of the Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Among other things.
Okay.
So Umberto Eco's quote was, "There's 3 things I can read for days and days. Number 1 is the Bible. Number 2 is Homer. Number 3 is Dylan Dog."
From the mouth of a very talented writer himself.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Dylan Dog, DC Comics, whatever. Was there anything you had to talk about?
Yes, as a matter of fact, based on my sarcastic text that I sent you last night, I would like to talk. I would like to talk first of all. If I can get that skill, we'll be off to a good start. I want to talk about the Crow trailer that came out.
Oh yeah, the Crow.
Yes.
Every time I hear the Crow, I think of that South Park episode. Have you seen that?
I probably haven't.
Where Satan's birthday party. He's like throwing a birthday party in hell, and it's a dress-up birthday party. He's like, nobody comes the Crow. Every time I have one of these parties, a million fucking guys show up dressed like the Crow. They all want to be tough like the Crow, but they're all losers. And so then, like, everyone comes to the birthday, and nobody's dressed up like the Crow, and then Satan comes out dressed like the Crow.
Oh, Satan. I can't remember that episode, but I will go back and look for that part specifically, because years and years ago when I was like 12 or 13, I was the Crow for Halloween.
Oh, nice.
And I was all sorts of excited about it.
So the new Crow, what's your take?
Well, first of all, like we were discussing last night, you can bet your ass I hunted for a Vertigo connection to this, and I found one. One of my comics that I have, The Crow Wild Justice, that came out in 97, was, one of the writers on it is Jerry Prosser. I'm looking at a picture of Satan as the Crow.
Nobody comes the Crow.
Guys are losers.
Oh, yeah, he even had The Crow written on it.
Oh, dang. Oh, South Park. Leave it up to them. But, Prosser, he also wrote the final 10 issues, like, forgive my numerology, it's probably wrong, like 80 through 89 of Grant Morrison's Animal Man.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. And so this trailer came out last week. Being a 90s child, I love the film. It's what made me buy the comic. I love the comic. And I'm excited. I think everyone who's freaking out and saying things like, this is so disrespectful to Brandon Lee. It's like, come on, guys. They've made how many movies about Jesus? So, I mean...
There's also been fucking 3 Crow movies that didn't feature Brandon Lee.
Absolutely.
And a fucking Crow TV series
that didn't feature
that starred Mark Dacascos. So, like, yeah, this isn't a character that is inherently tied to Brandon Lee. He played the role, but where was the outrage when any of the other Crow movies came out?
Right. Well, and some people try to justify it by saying, well, they should have left the Eric Draven storyline alone. They should have touched that. They should have done another Crow storyline. And it's like, well, they did it because everyone knows who Eric Draven is. Like, in Wild Justice, the main character is Michael Corby. And no one knows who, besides the people who've read it, no one knows who Michael Corby is. Everyone knows who Eric and Shelly Draven are.
That was also Mark Dacascos played Eric Draven.
Right, exactly.
So it wasn't even just Brandon Lee.
Right. And I understand, like, the zeitgeist that movie is. I mean, it's inescapable. It just is. But I really appreciated the violence in the new trailer. I never thought that a Crow remake would be PG-13, but Hollywood does do that. They're like, oh, we need to get more butts and seats. Let's make it PG-13. And they're obviously not going to do that. I think a lot of people saying that Bill Skarsgård looks like an emo Joker, I don't agree with.
Oh, I do. He looks so much like fucking Jared Leto Joker.
No, the only reason I think they even look alike is because they both have, like, high cheekbones.
Oh, no. They both go shirtless, tatted up bodies with jackets. That's the fucking Joker's look in Suicide Squad. They're both pale. They both have the slicked back, shorter hair. Like, there's a lot of similarities.
I guess. I think he looks like Michael Corby from Wild Justice more. But, okay. The only thing I'm really concerned about is Rupert Sanders is a very competent director. It's not like he's a bad director. But just so far, for me, his films don't have a lot of substance behind the style. Like, I like Snow White and the Huntsman. I appreciate the visuals in that movie. I appreciate what the movie could have been. But, okay, yeah, there's a little like... Okay.
Anyway.
Colby showing me a side-by-side comparison of Bill Skarsgård and the Joker from Suicide Squad. So, okay. I concede a little bit on that one.
Anyway, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So...
Rupert Sanders. Wait, Rupert Sanders? Is that the director?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only movie I've seen of his is Ghost in the Shell, which I liked. I think it's kind of unfairly maligned. It's not as good as the original anime, but I liked it.
That's fair.
I fucking love Pilo Asbach as Bato.
He did a good job. Yeah. I really liked the visuals for his Ghost in the Shell. I think in terms of putting interesting things to look at on the screen, he's good at that and he has an eye for it. Some people say that it looks too commercial and slick, and that could also be because his background is mostly in advertising and music videos. But look, I'm willing to give it a chance. And for the people who are saying that, well, they should have picked a different Crow storyline, it's like, I want this movie to do well, because if it does, then the likelihood that we will get different Crow storylines just, increases exponentially. Yeah. So, yeah.
My only thing, like, I don't know, I've seen a million fucking, my girlfriend or wife died, now I need revenge. And, like, I realize that that's the Crow story from the 80s, and that's the Crow movie from the 90s, but I don't know, I wish... I feel like I've already seen that, and I've already read it, so why not take a different spin on it? You could still do Eric Draven, you could still do a fucking Crow story, but maybe make something just a little more unique. Fuck, the fucking original movie franchise gave that up by the second movie. True. It was a dad avenging his son,
Right.
Right. And, yeah, I don't know. So I wish maybe they would have gone in a more unique or interesting direction with it. It doesn't necessarily look, like, poorly made or anything. I don't care. I don't care about remakes, by and large. I'll give it a shot. I'll watch it eventually, but I'm not going to rush out. And I don't know. It's not going to be as good as the original.
No.
Just by virtue of being a remake.
Exactly. So I guess if it's even a half as good as the original, I'll be happy. But my hopes aren't high. I just want to give it a chance.
Yeah. It just reminds me of when I saw James O'Barr talk about The Crow. James O'Barr was the creator of The Crow, and when he talked about that at at Lilac City Comic Con. I knew I was going to do that, so I paused. When I saw him talk about it at Lilac City Comic Con, I went into great detail about that. Episode 45. Flinch and the Return of the Comic Conventions. Go listen to that episode. I talk in great detail about listening to James O'Barr talk about creating The Crow and the fact that he doesn't give a shit about the movies, but he likes getting money from them because it's creator-owned, unlike so many other comics. So anyway, yeah, we've talked about James O'Barr before, and as a result, I guess Crow fits in nicely with our dialogue.
We'll find a way. But no, well, yeah, exactly. We'll see what happens. June is a few months away. I don't expect to be bowled over, but it would at least be nice to go and have a good time with movies. Yeah. So that's my take on it. Shall we launch forward?
Yeah, so now we are diving into our Vertigo Hall of Fame, which is something we talked about maybe last episode. It's the idea of making a Hall of Fame of Vertigo creators, characters, comics, whatever, and just the important things from the history of Vertigo. I think we should start with what I mentioned last time briefly, was the Mount Rushmore.
Oh, yes.
So, the top 4 people that made Vertigo what it is.
I have my feelings and thoughts, but I want to hear you go first.
Well, the thing is, there's two that are taken immediately. Because Karen Berger fucking created Vertigo, so she has to be on there. And then number two, I would argue, would be Shelly Bond, because she took over from Berger after Berger left Vertigo. She was, an assistant editor from the beginning, and she worked on so many books and was so instrumental in kind of the direction of the imprint. If I had to pick a writer, I would probably then go with Neil Gaiman. Yeah. Just because, Sandman predates Vertigo, but so much of the direction of the Vertigo DC universe, like Sandman, Swamp Thing, Hellblazer, Animal Man, Books of Magic, all of that has its DNA directly tied into Neil Gaiman. Mm-hmm. So I'd probably put him up there. After that, man, that's a tough one. I was trying to think of maybe an artist.
Dave McKean?
Maybe Dave McKean. He did so many covers. Yeah. For, like, Sandman, The Dreaming, so much of Gaiman stuff. My other thinking was maybe Duncan Fegredo, because he did the art for Vertigo's first miniseries, Enigma.
Oh, yes.
He did a lot of work for them over the years, but just that Enigma really sticks with me, how important it is. Yeah, I don't know, John Bolton, Glenn Fabry. Glenn Fabry did the entirety of Preacher, did a bunch of Hellblazer as well. Steve Dillon, there's just fucking too many to pick one. So I would have three. I'd have Shelly Bond, Karen Berger, Neil Gaiman, and then just another one that just says, and everyone else.
And everyone else. There you go. No, I think that makes sense. That some might say, well, that's a participation trophy, but no, there are literally just too many talented people.
I might just focus on editors and just go with Stuart Moore.
Stuart Moore's, yeah. He's a good one. And not just because you're friends with him on Facebook.
Yeah, not just because I'm friends with him on Facebook. So he worked on it. Like, he was an editor for Swamp Thing, Books of Magic, The Invisibles, Hellblazer, Preacher, Transmetropolitan. Like, he did a lot.
So much. He'd be a good one to put up there for editors. Yeah. I'm kind of stuck, of course, like you said, Karen Berger has to be on there, but I'm kind of stuck between Jeanette Kahn.
Oh, yeah.
And Dick, how do you say his last name?
Giardino?
Giardino?
Maybe, I don't know.
I think that's how you say it.
But Jeanette Kahn was, like, DC, though. She wasn't, like, directly over Vertigo. She was the, like, editor-in-chief at DC, right?
Yes.
I realize at the end of the day, like, the buck stops with her, but I feel like she had bigger things going on than just Vertigo.
Oh, totally. She absolutely did. But she was also instrumental in the idea. She was one of the people that really pushed the idea that we have Giordano. Thank you. Excuse me, sir. Rest in peace. She was also one of the people that really pushed the idea that we need to hire. DC needed to hire young staff to revitalize the content. So she was really supportive when Berger and how do you say his last goddamn name? The Italian guy.
Giordano,
yeah, thank you.
Giordano.
She was very instrumental in encouraging them to go to the UK and just steal away the British
invasion. Yeah.
Yes. And she's also, I was reading an interview with Karen Berger who said that Jeanette Kahn was the person, because Karen Berger, and I think this is a strength of hers, but she's the first to admit that, like, when she started working at Vertigo, she was not a comic book person. Yeah. Like, she really didn't care about comic books. She just cared about good stories. And she credited Jeanette Kahn as being the one to tell her, you can put anything in comic books. Mm-hmm. And she said that at first, that kind of, it may sound obvious, but she said it, like, flipped a light switch on in her brain because she had, again, this kind of preconceived notion of what comic books could be about. Yeah. And when she realized, we can do anything we want, she was untethered by the restrictions that a longtime comic book fan might put on the type of content that they would accept or think would be the direction they need to go in. So anyway, well, maybe there should be a plaque for Khan at the bottom of the Mount Rushmore. At least a plaque.
Because, I mean, if you're going to talk about Jeanette Khan, then there's also, like, Paul Levitz was key in that initial foundation.
He was, and that is true.
But, again, he is more like just DC in general. He was with DC for fucking decades. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess the Mount Rushmore was... My initial thought was that the Mount Rushmore would be needlessly myopic and limiting, and indeed it is.
For sure.
So let's just talk about Hall of Fame. Obviously, I mean, I've already talked about Shelly Bond so fucking much. Obviously, she is instrumental as well as Karen Berger. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some, I guess, lesser discussed editors, writers, and artists with Vertigo that I feel like are important in either the foundation or the longevity of the imprint.
That is a good direction in which to take it. We were talking earlier about compiling our lists, and again, this is one of those things that, like you said, it could just go on and on and on, and that's where my brain was going at first. I was like, how the hell are we ever going to consolidate this? So note to those who may be listening, this is far from an exhaustive index. So
mine is, because I'm just flipping through Wikipedia. Like, I don't even have a list. Wikipedia made a nice little list that I'm just poaching from.
Thank you, Wikipedia. Yeah. Donate today. Well, you want to go first?
Well, one very important person that probably doesn't really get talked about is Art Young.
Oh.
He was the editor for Enigma, which again was a launch title for Vertigo. It was their first miniseries. He also, before Vertigo, worked on Hellblazer, Swamp Thing, Sandman, Doom Patrol, Books of Magic, Kid Eternity, all books that became Vertigo. And he was also editor of one-shots Rogan Gosh and Mystery Play, which were both... Rogan Gosh wasn't. Mystery Play was early Grant Morrison. Rogan Gosh was by Peter Milligan and Brendan McCarthy. But he also was an editor on Sebastian O, which was one of the Disney Touchmark comics that then went to Vertigo when they imploded, as well as The Extremist. He also did a Tank Girl one-shot that I think was the movie adaptation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've probably read it then.
Yeah, and he edited just like a lot of their miniseries and things like that. His last, it says that his last editorial credit was for Flex Mentallo.
Good last credit. Yeah, you could do far worse. And I actually probably know more of his art than the books that he's edited, because he was a cartoonist too. And good choice, especially from the Tank Girl perspective.
Yeah, I know you're a Tank Girl fan.
Absolutely. She's gonna come up again here.
Yeah.
Okay, Art Young, good choice. So, when did he start at Vertigo?
He was in the first round. He was Karen Berger's assistant.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent choice. God, you keep hearing of, and remembering all these brilliant people, that it's just like the perfect storm of creativity and all of these like-minded people coming together. And yeah, this episode could easily be like 3 to 4 hours long, but I'll try to be concise. No promises. Give me another one.
Here's one that I did not realize was so instrumental in Vertigo in like the mid to late 90s. Axel Alonso. Do you know who he is?
I do, yes.
So he is, let me see. I guess he ended in 2017. But for a while, he was the editor-in-chief for Marvel, which is weird to me. I know him as the editor-in-chief for Marvel. And it turns out before that, he was an editor at Vertigo. He was an editor on Hellblazer, 100 Bullets, and even Preacher in like the mid to late 90s. So yeah, he was very instrumental in some of their flagship titles. It doesn't get bigger than Preacher and Hellblazer when it comes to
pretty
Vertigo.
Much, yeah.
So like he's one that I was completely not on my radar, and yet he was very important.
There's a great story that about how he got hired at Vertigo. It's a great segue. One of my favorite Vertigo editors, Lou Stathis, is the one who hired him. He did his job interview, and he said that in the interview, because I think Alonzo used to work for the Daily News. Anyway, how he and Stathis bonded was he said that he had wrote this article based on this interview with this guy who, he said, through his own quotes and remarks, kind of revealed himself to be an idiot. And Lou Stathis read it, and he tore it out of the newspaper because that was the guy that his girlfriend left him for. And he felt like he had this vindication that, yeah, you left me for this absolute douchebag. So really that's what they talked about during the job interview, and that's kind of how he got hired.
That's funny.
That was a good one, I thought. And I think it was... So my notes are so disorganized. So again, if you're listening, just bear with us here.
So I just gotta stick with Wikipedia, man. Mine are nice and concise.
He's like, it's all there.
Tom Payer. Go up to Tom Payer. He was one of the founding editors of Vertigo. He is. I've told this story before. He was an editor on Animal Man. He wasn't an editor on Animal Man, but he was an editor on Doom Patrol, and he is the one who hired Rachel Pollack to take over for Grant Morrison. Mm-hmm. And there's that fucking great joke, like that meta joke that they did, where she would write into the letters column asking for the job, and he would just like keep saying like, oh, whatever. And then at the last one before she took over, she was like, I really need this job. I already told my parents I got it. And he was like, oh, well, if you already told your parents, like, I guess you get the job. Hey, everyone, here's Rachel Pollack, the new writer on Doom Patrol.
That's awesome.
When in reality, he had met her, like, long before that at, like, a dinner party where she was talking about wanting to write comics because she already was a writer. And he hired her as, like, on the strength of some of her scripts for the Doom Patrol. So, and then she did other stuff for Vertigo as well. But she also, I'm pretty sure we've talked about this before, but she created the first openly trans superhero in Doom Patrol, named Coagula.
That's right. Okay, I forgot that, but we did talk about that. But...
She also helped with the Vertigo Tarot set. She was like a tarot expert or something. And she actually passed away, I think, 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Must not have been very old.
Yeah, she's, younger than she should have been to pass away. I don't know. But, see, Rachel. She died in 2023, yeah.
Oh, wow.
She was 77, so,
Oh, well, she's actually older than I
innings. Thought. She wrote Doom Patrol. There's the whole story that I was just telling you on her Facebook page. She also wrote Brother Power, the Geek, which was a fun one-shot. We talked about that in our encyclopedia episode.
We did.
As well as Tomahawk, which I brought this up a long time ago because I read that. It was a lot better than I thought it would be, like white dude living with the natives kind of story. But she managed to make an interesting spin on it.
Make it vital again.
Yeah, exactly.
Not easy to do.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I got off on Rachel Pollack there after talking about Tom Payer. But,
no, that's okay.
Anyway, who are we up to now?
Oh, goodness. I'm going to sound like I'm fangirling about him, but I don't care. Lou Stathis.
Lou Stathis. I knew he was going to come up from you.
Oh, absolutely.
I know Damthier, but what else did he do for Vertigo?
He edited some Hellblazer.
Okay.
Quite a bit of Hellblazer. And also he is seen as kind of instrumental in getting 100 Bullets off the ground and turning Vertigo more towards, well, I shouldn't say more towards, just broadening their stories, because apparently, and this is a direct quote, I think it's from the artist Jill Thompson, I can't remember, but anyway, she was saying that Lou Stathis, he hated fairies and elves and shit, and supposedly that's a direct quote from him. I love fairies and elves and shit. We're going to talk more about that later. Fables is fantastic. We've talked about Fables before. Black Orchid, that magic realism, he really wasn't into that, and so he was instrumental in kind of adapting more of a true crime avenue for storytelling, and which apparently Karen Berger said she was a little bit resistant about it first because they were doing so well with like supernatural and magic stories that she when she first heard about 100 Bullets, she was like, well, I don't know if that's a Vertigo book. But then, like, she took the idea to Jeanette Kahn, and Jeanette Kahn was like, when are we doing this? Let's do it yesterday. And of course, 100 Bullets, I'd probably say it's up there with Hellblazer as perhaps the Vertigo title, that if you're going to say you own any Vertigo books, you should probably own 100 Bullets and some Hellblazer. Mm-hmm. So he was really instrumental in that. I also really appreciate... how would you describe it? He had a really, I guess, I don't know if this is the right word, but a prismatic, I think I read that on Wikipedia, actually. He had a very multifaceted approach to editing and writing, and something that I love. We've talked about this before, but it's still true, and I think it's just instrumental, is the link between popular culture, comic books, especially music, because when he was an editor for Heavy Metal and Reflex magazine, they would have all these profiles of, Neil Gaiman and Lou Reed and Susan Sontag, and all of these different creators that you might think would be in like their own niche magazines, and they were all piled together because in Lou Stathis' mind, it's all connected. It's all connected, and if you don't recognize that, then you're not paying attention.
He was also an editor for High Times.
Oh, yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, so for Vertigo, he worked on Preacher, Doom Patrol, Industrial Gothic, The System, and Damphir. Damphir? I don't know how to pronounce that. It's one of those words I've seen a million times, but I don't think I've ever heard said.
I think it's Damphir, but with the way they spell it, it looks like it should be pronounced Damphire. But, no, I just really... and everyone who talks about him says that he was super supportive of young artists, and he himself died very young.
Yeah, he was only 44. We read his obituary that was written in Vertigo at the time. Remember?
Yeah.
That was ages ago. But yeah, because I was, I don't know, I can't remember what I was reading. One of the books from '97 that, like all the Vertigo books, had a nice little send off to Stathis in that. Let's move on to writers. Where are we at with our time? Yeah, we're already in an hour. Fuck.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Let's move on to writers. So this was one thing that I think is funny because Alan Moore is often, lumped in with Vertigo.
Yes.
Because of his work on Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And his creation of John Constantine. But he has only ever written one thing for Vertigo. And it wasn't even actually a book. He wrote the foreword to House on the Borderland. It's based on an original novel by William Hope Hodgson. And yeah, Vertigo made a graphic novel adaptation of it in 2000, written by Simon Revelstoke with art by Richard Corbin, who's a favorite of mine. But yeah, so the hardcover edition, it's probably in both, but I have the hardcover edition of it, and it's got a introduction by Alan Moore, which is literally his only time working for Vertigo, and probably the only time he'd worked for DC outside of like the 1980s.
Really?
Because Alan Moore fucking hates DC.
He does.
With a fiery, beardy passion. And
no bones about it.
So anyway, it's just funny that he often gets lumped in with Vertigo, even though he had nothing to do with it. And by the time Vertigo had been created, he had washed his hands of DC. His Swamp Thing and stuff and V for Vendetta have been reprinted as Vertigo, but they weren't initially.
Good point.
Other than him, we've already talked about Neil Gaiman.
On that connection to Alan Moore, though, let us segue into Nancy Collins, who I'm 95% sure, not 100%, but strong, healthy 95% sure that she was the first writer that had the Vertigo logo on her book for Swamp Things. And I'm pretty sure she was the first woman writer.
For Swamp Thing?
Well, for Vertigo.
Oh,
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
She started writing Swamp Thing at 110. I don't know. I know that she was the writer on Swamp Thing when it swapped over to Vertigo.
She was.
But I mean, you mean she was the first person to have Vertigo on their comic? What do you mean? Like
to have the actual Vertigo logo come out on the book.
But I mean, the way publishing works, they have like the monthly books. So like they'd all be batched together. So I don't know if you could figure out what the actual first one to have Vertigo on it would be.
I think, and again, I could be wrong. I think it's Swamp Thing number 6, because I think that's the first one she actually wrote.
No, she wrote Swamp Thing 110 was her first issue, and that was in August of '91.
Was it Swamp Thing annual?
Could have been an annual. I don't know. I don't know when the annual was.
Anyway. So she's one of those behind the scenes that I think is really instrumental, good writer. Yeah. She also wrote Damn Fear.
Yep.
And it's kind of funny that like I think she's got actual books, a series out, a vampire series.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny to me that her name doesn't get thrown around in the same vein as Anne Rice in terms of what she brings to vampire lore. And that's a whole nother topic of conversation. Like it before he died, that was supposed to be a series, but then of course he passed away. Yeah. And there was a legal issue around copyright infringement with Damn Fear, which has since the case got tossed out. But yeah, really, really messed with that book's progression.
Interesting. She wrote a nonfiction book in 2020 called From Bayou to Abyss, Examining John Constantine, Hellblazer.
Yes. Yes. It's all about Conrad Constantine.
What? What is it? Oh, there it is. Conrad Constantine? What?
One of Constantine's, he's like a ancestor, like dark wizard, bad guy.
I've read the entirety of Hellblazer. I've never heard of a Conrad Constantine, though.
Really?
Yeah, I...
The only reason I know who that is because I like Nancy Collins, and I have that book somewhere. But, yeah, I think...
This publisher has a ton of, like, comic book analyses.
There's probably some more really good books in there.
Yeah, there's a couple that I've read. One about The Filth by Grant Morrison.
Oh, yeah.
Curing the Postmodern Blues. But that book isn't showing up.
The book has a different title, I think. Because that's the title of her essay that she contributed to the book.
Oh, okay.
I have it written here somewhere. Bear with me.
Wait, hold on. It looks like hers is called What Do You Do with an Undead Sailor?
Yes. Oh, Bayou. Yeah, that's the name. Excuse me. You're right. The name of the book is Bayou to Abyss, Examining John Constantine Hellblazer. And yeah, I think she created Conrad Constantine along with another artist or writer, Tom Mandrake. Tom Mandrake. He was she wrote him into Swamp Thing.
Oh, okay. Hold on. So is this a character that wasn't actually in Hellblazer?
I don't think so. I think she created him for Swamp Thing, and they just made him a ancestor of John Constantine. So
that would explain why I've never heard of this dude. Because he was in Swamp Thing. Okay. He was in Saga of the Swamp Thing number 111. Okay. Which is the second issue she wrote.
Okay. Gotcha. Alrighty. So, yeah, I just think that she's kind of one of those Vertigo writers that gets slept on. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's still out there doing her thing. But I don't know if she gets the credit that I think she deserves. Yeah. All right, your turn.
Okay. There's so many writers that are just like Grant Morrison. Yeah, he wrote a ton of stuff. He's fucking awesome. Jamie Delano, Hellblazer, The Horrorist. He also wrote Bad Blood that Philip Bond did the art for.
Oh, yeah.
Garth Ennis.
Oh, boy.
Between Hellblazer and Preacher, True Faith, a lot of great stuff. Goddess, Pride and Joy, Unknown Soldier. Matt Wagner, he's one that I don't think gets a lot of credit. He wrote Sandman Mystery Theater, as well as Sandman Midnight Theater, which was with Neil Gaiman, which was like the crossover between Gaiman's Sandman and the Wesley Dodds Sandman.
Okay, yeah.
Sandman Mystery Theater, I've talked about it before. It's a 70 issues, just great pulpy, dirty noir. I don't know. There's just a lot of good writers that we've talked about a lot. So
there is, and yeah, I was thinking about that and making the list too. It's like, well, how do we just not make?
Well,
this?
and then going even further than that, like John Nay Reber, who did took over Books of Magic from Gaiman.
Okay.
He also did Trenchcoat Brigade, Books of Fairy, Shadows Fall. J.M. DeMatteis, who is a fucking comic book legend. He did Justice League in the 80s, Seekers into the Mystery, and Moonshadow. Actually, Vertigo finished Moonshadow. That was originally at a completely different publisher, who I can't remember. Epic Comics.
Oh, okay.
So technically that started at Marvel. Epic Comics was owned by Marvel. It started at Marvel and moved to DC. Seekers into the Mystery was a cool 12-issue story that he did, like a maxi series. And Mike Carey, he's done a whole bunch of Sandman spinoffs and Lucifer and Hellblazer. Brian K. Vaughan, Why the Last Man.
Yeah.
Speaking of Why the Last Man, I've been reading Invincible.
Yes.
The animated series is back. It's fucking amazing. So I've been rereading the comic. I think I talked about that a while ago, but I'm into like the third volume now. And there's at one point, there's a character that can hop between dimensions, and he is talking to his fucking toadies. He's like, "Hey guys, I just found this dimension where all males with a Y chromosome have been completely wiped out by a virus." He's like, "It's just full of chicks. Come on, let's go."
Ladies everywhere.
Yeah. So there's a Why the Last Man crossover with an Image comic. One thing that I thought was interesting is Ed Brubaker. So he did an anthology series called Scene of the Crime, which was the precursor to his very well received series called Criminal with Sean Phillips. That is now getting an adaptation from Amazon into a TV series. But Criminal has been going for like 20 years, and it's just a series of miniseries that are all like tied together. But so Ed Brubaker kind of got to start with that genre at Vertigo.
Okay.
Which is an interesting one to me. He also did Dead Boy Detectives for a while.
Have we read any of that for an episode?
What?
Dead Boy Detectives.
Oh, no. We've talked about it. We haven't read any of it.
Okay.
Then there's Bill Willingham, Fables.
Of course, yeah.
Taking his Fables away from DC. He also did a fun one-shot called Merv Pumpkinhead, Agent of Dream.
That's right. You mentioned that.
I have that. It's a fun one. He did some other Sandman books, too, like some spin-offs. And then, there's like Kyle Baker.
So many important
Mark Millar,
ones.
Brian Azzarello. And so as far as artists go, I've already mentioned Steve Dillon. I think he was fucking fantastic. One of my favorite artists. I loved his look of John Constantine. I loved his look of everyone in Preacher. Pia Guerra from Why the Last Man. I have original art from her that she made me of Yorick.
That's right.
She's a goddamn legend as well. Duncan Fegredo, I've already mentioned. I put the word out to some people. Kyla suggested we talk about Jill Thompson.
Yes.
She did the Endless Storybook. She worked on Dead Boy Detectives also, the 2005 series. She even did Brief Lives for Sandman, which I held up as one of my favorite volumes of Sandman, largely because of her art. I really like the way Jill Thompson made Dream and Delirium.
Super talented. She was working on...
She did Transmet, too, for fuck's sake.
I know. God. Her and somebody else, very informative, they were working on a Vertigo, a publication for, what the hell? Phantom Stranger.
Oh, yeah.
It was her, I think it was her and Brian Azzarello. They were working on a Phantom Stranger project. She had art all drawn up for it. I'm sure I could find it somewhere. I haven't looked yet. But it never happened because it was a project they wanted to do with Stathis. And then when Stathis died, they're like, no, we don't want to do it anymore. But it was going to happen. And I kind of wish that we had got to see what that might have looked like.
There was a Phantom Stranger one-shot with Guy Davis doing the art.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't know that she was going to work on it, though. And, of course, like John Bolton, he co-created Tim Hunter, largely based him on, I believe, his son, if I recall.
The original Harry Potter,
Yeah,
we like to say.
And, we've already talked about Dave McKeon and Glenn Fabry. Brian Bolland also was hugely influential.
Yes.
Cover artist. He did a really cool Zatanna one-shot called Everyday Magic.
We've talked...
Yeah,
before,
briefly.
yeah.
It was one that I had to track down because it goes for crazy amounts of money now. It's long out of print.
Remind me how much you paid for it?
I don't remember, but I got it cheaper than it should have been.
Oh, okay.
I think I got it for like $50, and it usually goes for like, I don't know, over 100. But Dave McKeon, I mean, fuck, I can't say enough about him. I have 2 volumes just of his covers of Sandman books.
Understandably so, yes.
Which, same with Glenn Fabry. The final volume quote of Preacher is just all of his covers. And I've mentioned this before, but it's a really cool... Each page on the right, they show the final cover, and then on the left is a rough draft. Yeah. And then his notes about working on it.
Oh, I'd like to read that.
And some are really in-depth, and some are just like, I moved her arm, the end. Like, I didn't like the way it looked. This one was fun. Next.
Moving on. No, instrumental, yeah. Again, there's another great Karen Berger story about, I think it was... Oh, yeah, she was listening to Gaiman's pitch for Black Orchid, and Dave McKean was there, and she said that, like, the whole time, like, Neil Gaiman is talking, like, Dave McKean had introduced himself, but he was, like, totally silent the whole time. Like, he didn't offer any input until they finally got to the part where basically they're like, well, and this is the art for it, and in this style, and she said, like, he opened up his portfolio, and it was all his stuff for violent cases, and she... like, just lost her mind. She said it was just so gorgeous.
I've read Violent Cases. I have a copy of it. It's, Gaiman, really early Gaiman work. I guess pre-Black Orchid. I almost said Black Hawk Kid right there because of that joke.
But you curbed yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Listen to an old episode where we talk about that joke. Karen Berger, Neil Gaiman inside joke. I don't know. So I was going to go into comics, like actual issues, as well as characters too. But this is a long episode already. So maybe let's save that for next time. We'll do a Hall of Fame of Vertigo characters and or titles.
We might have to do a part 2. Yeah.
Or, we kind of already did that with the encyclopedia. I don't know.
True.
Whatever, we'll talk about it. Maybe this will be it. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't care. Vertigo.
Absolutely. Oh, shit. I know this, like you said, this is too long already. Chris Pacello.
Yes! Yes.
Throw his name out there, yes.
He was on my list earlier, too. My Wikipedia list. No, he, what was it? What's the book specifically? Because I know him as, like, an X-Men, right? Oh, fucking Shade the Changing Man. Plus, I have that art, like, just framed. Like, I have that image. His death picture. But I know him from, like, X-Men and Generation X and that kind of stuff. But, he did Shade the Changing Man. He did Death. His version of Death is probably the most iconic to me.
Probably. I think it's safe to say that his version of Death is probably, like, that image right there that we're looking at right now. I think that's how most people see her.
Yeah. Because he did both High Cost of Living and the sequel, Time of Your Life. He also worked on Witching Hour at Vertigo. I forgot about that.
Did he? Oh.
It was written by Jeff Loeb, who's a writer I don't really like, but
the art was good.
Probably a good book. I don't know. Oh, he also worked on the Children's Crusade.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, Vertigo's noble failure of a crossover.
Oh, again, gotta shout out. I know I love most of his artwork for Tank Girl, but I have to shout out Jamie Hewlett's cover for shading his cover for Shade the Changing Man's Mine Eyes Have Screamed the Glory. That's an awesome cover. Kind of has like Ralph Steadman vibes to it. But yeah, isn't that a great cover?
Yeah, okay.
I really like that
one. That's a series that I own the entirety of.
Of course you do. Yeah. You've got all the good ones.
That's cool. Yeah, that is a cool cover. Anytime I think of Shade the Changing Man, though, there's a handful of covers that immediately spring to mind for me. One of which, I think they're both Duncan Fregretto covers. This one.
Oh, that's
Which is
beautiful.
the one with John Constantine when they go back in time.
Absolutely. That's a great one.
And then Mad Mod Poet God. This one. God damn it, it's right there. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I fucking love that cover. I've said this before, I'm pretty sure, but that is the image that I go to when I think of the term Byronic.
That is a yes. Visual definition.
Yes.
Actually, back when I was still a reporter, that specific card from the pack that you gave me, that was taped to the side of my computer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, let's wrap it up. We've talked about a lot of people. Anyone listening, you've got about 1 million fucking writers, artists, and editors to go track down now. We obviously focused on Vertigo, but they did a lot of stuff outside of Vertigo, so just Google any one of these motherfuckers and start diving into their stuff.
There's plenty to see.
Yeah.
And if we missed someone, which of course we did, like if one of your favorites wasn't on there, then comment and tell us why you think they should be on there.
And then go fuck yourself, because I'm not going to read your comment. No, I'm just kidding. You know I like reading emails. Actually, let's check our email real quick, see if we got any. Vertigo Voices.
I was going to say I'd read it, but I don't have the password, so I depend on Colby to tell me.
Nah, just Podbean. I gave you the password. You just don't remember it.
I don't know. Sorry. You should give it to me again, por favor.
Yeah, no, nothing new.
Maybe next time. But if you're out there, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Let's keep those fucking numbers going up, because I don't like editing this when there's no one listening. So just keep on listening. Anyway, yeah, everyone, thanks for welcoming us back. Obviously, special thanks to Shelly Bond for the support and the kindness.
You're here.
And yeah, I guess we're done for today then. Have a good fucking whatever. Bye.
Come back again.